The 2025-26 NBA season was supposed to mark a turning point for Bronny James. After a rookie campaign defined by historic scrutiny, the unprecedented optics of the league's first active father-son duo, and a year shaped more by spectacle than substance, the Lakers' internal expectation was simple: progress. Instead, that growth has been difficult to spot. At some point, that responsibility falls on him. Confidence and skill come from repetition, and repetition requires total commitment. What makes this even more puzzling is that Bronny James won a Call of Duty tournament. Now, credit where it's due. That takes focus and practice too. But when that level of dedication shows up in a video game before it shows up in an actual basketball game, it raises questions about priorities. Maybe Bronny shouldn't be shooting in a virtual arena until he's comfortable shooting in a real one. I'm also a hardcore gamer, so I get it. My top 5 of all time are Dark Souls 3, Neo 2, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, Elden Ring, and God of War 2018. But business demands laser-sharp focus. With a full year of professional conditioning, daily exposure to NBA speed and physicality, and constant mentorship from LeBron James, the belief was that Bronny would move beyond novelty status and grow into a usable rotation player, even if only as a defensive guard or secondary playmaker. Instead, the opposite has happened. Through January 2026, a review of box score data, advanced metrics, lineup usage, and film shows clear regression. Bronny isn't stabilizing, he's slipping. His offensive efficiency has declined, his role has shrunk, and his impact metrics now sit below even his already modest rookie baseline. Rather than settling in as a defensive specialist, he's become increasingly difficult to justify in competitive minutes. Advanced metrics paint an even bleaker picture. His player efficiency rating sit well below replacement level. This regression currently ranks Bronny among the least effective players in the NBA. At this point, that conclusion isn't emotional or narrative driven, it's mathematical. And this decline isn't happening in isolation. This on-court deterioration unfolds against a backdrop of escalating organizational tension within the Lakers front office. ESPN's Baxter Holmes has revealed a fragile dynamic between Lakers governor Jeannie Buss and LeBron James, shaped by unresolved resentment over past roster decisions, most notably the Russell Westbrook trade, and a belief within ownership that drafting Bronny was a personal concession that went unappreciated. With LeBron approaching unrestricted free agency in the summer of 2026 and real momentum building behind a potential Warriors pursuit, the failure of the Bronny experiment to produce tangible basketball value has become more than a development issue. It's now a franchise-level problem. To understand why Bronny's regression matters so much, you first have to understand the organizational capital spent to bring him in and how fragile the alliance was that allowed it. Publicly, the Lakers framed Bronny's selection with the 55th pick in the 2024 draft as harmless upside, a late second-round flyer with pedigree and defensive potential. Holmes' reporting uncovers a darker reality. Jeannie Buss, the Lakers governor, reportedly privately felt James should have been grateful for the gesture of drafting his son. More damningly, the report indicates she believed he was not. That detail fundamentally changes how Bronny's development is being judged. Normally, a 55th pick gets anonymity and patience. Failure is a statistical probability, not a personal slight. It's unfortunate, but expected. Bronny doesn't have that luxury. Because his presence was perceived internally as a favor rather than a basketball necessity, his performance isn't evaluated on a neutral curve. It's evaluated as repayment. When an owner perceives a transaction as a personal gesture of goodwill that goes unacknowledged, the asset, in this case Bronny, becomes a living symbol of that friction. If Bronny were performing at a high level, the tension would ease. His success would retroactively justify the pick as savvy roster management. But regression does the opposite. It exacerbated the feeling within the Buss family that they compromised their roster integrity for a superstar who failed to appreciate the sacrifice. That resentment didn't start with Bronny. The tension regarding the Bronny experiment is inextricably linked to the Westbrook experiment, the trade in 2021, a move aggressively supported by LeBron and Anthony Davis. This was a critical inflection point in the relationship between James and the front office. The catastrophic failure of that trade, which resulted in a 33-49 record. The Lakers missed the playoffs, burned assets, and spent years cleaning up the mess. The Westbrook debacle fundamentally eroded the trust Jeanie Buss placed in LeBron James's instincts and permanently altered LeBron's influence on decisions. So when the Lakers drafted Bronny, it wasn't viewed in a vacuum. It was filtered through the same skepticism. Another roster decision driven by LeBron. Another bet that defied conventional basketball logic. Bronny is arguably the worst player in the league. The issue isn't just that Bronny is struggling, it's that his struggles validate ownership's worst fears and reinforces the most dangerous internal narrative imaginable, that ceding control to LeBron leads to organizational malpractice. The precarious situation described by Holmes is not just about a contract dispute. It is about a fundamental philosophical clash over who constructs the roster. Bronny's failure to develop is the latest data point suggesting that LeBron's influence on personnel is a net negative for the franchise's on-court product. This falls squarely on the franchise. They are the ones paying the salary, burning the roster spot, and answering the media questions, while the gratitude they expected remains elusive. The most immediate indicator of a player's standing within an organization is the volume of opportunity afforded to them. In the NBA, a sophomore player, particularly one the team is committed to developing, typically sees an increase in minutes, usage, responsibility, and more tolerance for mistakes. Bronny has seen the opposite. His minutes have dropped sharply, sliding from developmental run into near-exclusive garbage time appearances. That isn't accidental. It reflects a coaching staff that no longer trusts him in competitive situations. And even as his minutes shrink, his production has fallen faster. That's the red flag. The modern NBA guard must possess at least one elite skill to survive. For an undersized guard, 6 feet 2 inches, like Bronny, that skill must be shooting. Without the ability to space the floor, he becomes an offensive liability that sabotages the team's spacing for other players. Bronny's shooting efficiency, already a concern in his rookie year, hasn't improved in 2025 to 26. His three-point percentage is terrible. In the NBA, a guard shooting this poorly from deep is typically unplayable. This allows opposing defenses to completely ignore him on the perimeter, effectively creating a 5-on-4 defensive advantage for the opponent. This negative spacing forces other ball handlers to drive into more congested lanes, directly harming the efficiency of the team's stars. Bronny often looks hesitant, almost afraid to pull the trigger, and he clearly struggles to find a consistent rhythm on the court. A guard shooting in the low 20s from 3 simply cannot stay on the floor in today's NBA. This isn't a slump, it's a player without a translatable NBA skill. With low-minute players, people cite per 36-minute stats to project what a player might do with more playing time. However, in Bronny's case, the per 36 numbers do not paint a flattering picture of potential. Even when adjusted for pace and playing time, his efficiency metrics remain stagnant. Bronny's lack of production is not simply a function of low minutes, but of low capability. He is not a spark plug waiting for an opportunity. He is a low efficiency player whose flaws would likely be magnified, not mitigated, by increased exposure. Calling any NBA player the worst sounds hyperbolic, but the advanced metrics don't offer much resistance. Bronny's BPM remains far below replacement level. His on/off numbers are brutal. When he's on the floor, the Lakers hemorrhage points. From my research, Bronny's net rating is a staggering of minus 19.5. This means that per 100 possessions, the Lakers are outscored by nearly 20 points when Bronny is on the floor. This is a blowout level differential. When he enters the game, the team's performance collapses on both ends. To understand how bad Bronny is, J.D. Davison is a player who can drop 46 points in the G League, yet struggles for NBA minutes. This comparison highlights the massive talent gap required just to make the NBA. Bronny lacks the explosive scoring punch of a Davison-type player, The reality is that the Lakers are paying Bronny to waste a roster spot. It's harsh, but mathematically defensible given the opportunity cost of that spot in a competitive Western Conference. This matters because roster spots matter, especially under second apron restrictions. Carrying a player who can't contribute isn't harmless anymore. It's a competitive tax, and that's why the criticism has sharpened. Bronny isn't just underperforming, he's occupying space that a functional role player could fill. On a contender, that matters. The usual defense is development time in the G League, and yes, Bronny has had occasional solid games there, but the broader picture is inconsistent and troubling. The fundamental issue is translatability. In the G League, Bronny can rely on his athleticism to generate points in transition. He can attack closeouts that are a half step slower than in the NBA. However, scouting reports indicate that he lacks a specific skill or trait that separates him from the rest of the pack. Ball handling, described as average. Shooting, described as below average. Size, described as undersized. Without an elite skill, like Seth Curry's shooting or Jose Alvarado's Steph ability, Bronny's G League success, when it happens, is a false positive. It does not predict NBA success because it relies on physical advantages that disappear against NBA athletes. The disconnect between his G League highlights and his NBA lowlights is not a slump, it is a ceiling. The problem is translation. He doesn't have an elite skill that carries upward. He's not a shooter, not a lockdown defender, not a dynamic ball handler. G League flashes don't change that, they mask it. The regression of Bronny James in the 2025-26 season cannot be fully understood without analyzing the structural changes to the Lakers roster. The acquisition of veteran guard Marcus Smart on a 2-year, $11 million deal was a decisive move that signaled a shift in organizational priority from development to competency. Marcus Smart is the archetype of what the Lakers hoped Bronny might become, a rugged, defensive-minded guard who can facilitate and hit timely shots. Smart's arrival created an uphill battle for Bronny's rotational opportunities. Smart fills the exact niche Bronny was meant to occupy. In late-game situations or defensive possessions, Coach Redick will invariably choose the former Defensive Player of the Year over the struggling sophomore. Smart's presence pushes Bronny from fringe rotation to deep bench/inactive, depriving him of the NBA minutes needed to improve. At the same time, LeBron's free agency looms. The old leverage, you want LeBron, you take Bronny, weakens by the day. If Bronny can't play, he stops being an asset and starts being baggage. And teams like Golden State don't carry baggage. Bronny James has not just failed to take a sophomore leap, he has moved backward. The numbers are worse, the role is smaller, and the trust is gone. On its own, that would be a disappointing development story. Inside the Lakers' current political climate, it's something much bigger. Bronny's stagnation validates internal resentment, undermines LeBron's leverage, and threatens the fragile equilibrium holding the franchise together. Unless something changes quickly, dramatically, his presence risks becoming the accelerant that ends the LeBron James era in Los Angeles. This isn't just about a young player struggling. It's about a franchise running out of margin for error. Like, subscribe, share, and maybe even hype the video. Let me know in the comments if you agree that Bronny James isn't improving. Thanks for watching.